Hi, welcome to the Small Shed. This Saturday I'm making a start on a project that's been waiting for 30 years. See you in a minute. Now, I extended our house starting in late 1980s and that ran through into the mid-90s, and one area has always remained unfinished and it's got worse and worse and worse. It was exacerbated by putting all the rubbish from the old shed into there and then bringing stuff back into the new shed and leaving most of it behind in the old one. And it's the garage. It's got a load of work that's still got to be done. I've never yet had the final sign off of building regulations for the work that I did on the house, and therefore it's something that if anything ever happens to me and the house comes to get sold, it's going to be a nightmare for somebody to have to sort it all out. So it's time to actually get out there and sort it out. There's a car in there somewhere buried underneath it all. It needs a lot of work doing on plasterboarding and getting it skimmed out to get it the fireproofing to the room above, or the two rooms above, and it just needs a general clear out so I can actually work in there and do something. So let's go out, have a look, make a start on it, and do one or two little jobs that also need doing on the way. So about 3 years ago I had an electric door fitted rather than the old up and over, which solved a couple of problems. The boxing around the soil stack from the extension was sticking into the side of the garage a bit too far, and the up and over door would tend to catch on it and I couldn't get the proper fire rating on it. So that was the first thing that needed something done about it. We had that put in, but as with all these things I made a lot of effort to put a spur point in for the fitters when they came, and the door came with a 3-pin plug on it, which at the time I just plugged into an extension lead. I said, can't you wire it in hard? And they said, oh, it'll invalidate the warranty or something stupid. 3 years on, obviously that's not going to be an issue now anyway, so I wanted to get that hard wiring done and get that tidied up as a starting point. But as you can see, the whole place is just knee deep in rubbish, so I had to make a start getting that out of the way and throw some of it away. So the pipe ducting, as I mentioned, I was having trouble getting 2 layers of plasterboard and skim on to get up and over door to open properly. So this has solved that problem, and it's also meant that I can put cabinets much closer along the wall, storage in there. So we wired that one in as a starter, just straightforward. It's the same as wiring a 3-pin plug, but it's got its own fuse spur on it now, so we can do any maintenance without any problems. Quick test to see if it works. Okay, that's fine. So it was time to tackle the years of problems that I'd accumulated by keeping things because they might be useful one day, and that has been the hardest thing to break, because there's stuff in there that I've been going to do one day that you suddenly have to make this decision, and you get the realization that there is absolutely no way in the world you're ever going to get those things done. and therefore all you're doing is just storing rubbish, and this is, I think, how you start becoming a hoarder. So the timber, obviously some of those are long lengths of stuff that I got from the recycling centre. I'll be keeping those, but there are huge amounts of nuts, bolts, screws, washers, all in silly tins and things. Most of my screws and bolts and things are all now in decent storage in the shed, and this is stuff that I'm never going to ever use, I don't think. Old nails, 4-inch nails, I can't see I'm ever going to use again because I use screws now. So I needed just to get all the old cabinets out so I could get access to this pipe duct, which will be the first next job, if you like, in the garage, will be to box out that pipe ducting properly, pop some insulation in it, and get it reboarded. And then the ceiling itself will need reboarding because it's only got one layer of plasterboard on at the moment. It needs 2 layers of plasterboard and a skim on it to get fire rating for the bathroom above. The other thing is that I really need a workbench in there for working on things like the car or sawing metal. Metal and woodworking don't tend to happily mix together. I usually find that if I'm sawing wood around metal things, you get oil in the sawdust and it makes a mess, and if you cut iron filings around wood, it gets into things and scratches. So they're best kept apart. I'm going to make a setup in there which I'll be using for any metalworking and sawing, and a bench with a decent vise on it. Bearing in mind that this pipe ducting was done probably in the mid-90s, at a time when I was probably a little bit tired after having spent several years building the extension. It's a bit sketchy in places, so it's time to rip out most of it. I'm leaving the bearer against the wall. I think it needs one screw putting in, but the fact that there are nails nailing that to the wall makes me think that I probably wasn't using the right tools and materials at the time. And then it was a matter of just going through all of these boxes of stuff, making decisions. I've thrown out 6 or 7 tins of gunk, engine degreaser and things like that, which I'm sure I will end up buying again, but at a time when I need it and when I'm ready for it, rather than just keep storing stuff. I've still got a long way to go, but the main thing is to get started on that road. It's been a mental block for several years, that once you start to unlock, it makes it much easier to get on with it. The 3 units on the left, I've tended to keep one for ironmongery, one for electrics and one for plumbing. Had a cull in there as well, drawer runners I've been throwing away, things like that that I wouldn't use, and I use the double extending ones now anyway. These were ones that came with IKEA drawers, I think, left over from builds. We got the Celotex out that was left over from the shed floor and took that up the tip, which again, something you think, oh, that'll come in one day, you know, it costs money and all that sort of thing. But it's just never going to be used on anything else, I don't think. And perhaps most significantly, on the back of the car, you can see there's a railway layout board, and that is a layout that I planned many years ago, but have finally got to the realisation that there's no way in the world I would ever get it built, and that was quite a big break to do. And I took everything up the tip, and we've made some inroads on it. We've had 3 trips up there. So here we are after the first day's work. It probably doesn't look a lot better, but it is. Not only have I exposed the car, and we can get at that and make a start on doing things. The timber over there has got to be moved, but it means I can easily get at the boxing that I need to do around that pipe, and then I can make a start on getting this ceiling properly boarded, finished off, and get that tidied up. The cupboards are, some of the cupboards are now empty, so at least some of the stuff on the floor can go into them when I've decided the right way about going forwards. And I need to start and think about a bench over here for doing what I would call dirty work, metal work, taking engines to pieces, that sort of thing, and that will be a future project. So one day on, 3 carloads to the tip, we're actually beginning to see the light of day in here. So not a bad day's work, although it has exposed a whole load of work that I suspected I needed to be doing, but we'll get onto that piece by piece later on. Well, as of interest, it was a long-term project, this one. Not only has it taken, as I said, 30 years to get here, but it's going to take quite some time to get it sorted anyway. But it's surprising how one day's work can make quite a difference, and it is just breaking that mindset that you might want to use something in the future and you just collect so much rubbish that's just never going to get used. And I've done that. I've had a good day and just literally thrown away a lot of things that I know in a week or two's time I'll think, damn, I could have used that, but I've thrown it away. But I think more than anything it's got me started on doing the project, and it will open up so much more for me to do. I've got a workbench to make out there as a project. I've got all the boxing and plasterboarding to do. There's a toilet at the back of the garage that needs stripping out and redoing. And then underneath it all, as I said, is the car that needs a lot of work doing. So I've got plenty of work that it's generated, but I'm far more happy to be doing that than going out there every day looking at it and thinking this is just a huge thing that I can't deal with. So it's made a start on it, and we'll get more projects coming up in the future as a result of that. Hope it was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll try and do something different, and I'll see you then. Bye.